Hello everybody, it's Calxiyn here. If you guys enjoyed this video, remember that you guys should become patrons over on Patreon or join our Discord server. Our $25 goal is completed right now, which means Hunter and I will be working on our first couple cosplays. Isn't that very exciting? Hunter.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, okay, I have two things. I have Neo and Roman. I'll be Neo, obviously, because I'm the short one. Yes. Or, now today, since we're talking about Blake and Yang, Hunter can be Yang. He just needs to re-dye his hair blonde again for it. And I'll just be Blake, because, like, I'm the emo one. Like, it all works out. Does it not?
Wonderfully so. Nice to know that at least it doesn't damage. At least it damages finances that are not my own.
Yeah, the Patreons are paying for it, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of Blake and Yang, obviously that is what we are going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about, okay, this isn't a shipping video, but it's probably going to get in that territory. If y'all aren't okay with that, like, this is your time to leave. But we're not talking about that.
At this point, they're used to the gay stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about more the moment that they shared together and then the follow-up. So basically, we're predicting episode 14, or just the future in general, right?
The bee's future.
So, here's what I think happened as we reconstruct the episode. So, Hazel gets pulled in by the Lancer, and Blake recognizes that as one of Weiss's summons, and so she goes in there to see what's going on inside of the building. I mean, him getting pulled in general would be cause to, like, take a peek, look around, but I think that she did recognize that it was Weiss's, because the first time that Weiss did that, Blake was around, I think. They were together, trying to find Yang, right? So that's a callback. Anyway, so Blake goes over. First Weiss sees her, and then RWBY sees her, and then Yang sees her, and Yang just has, like, this perfect look on her face, I guess. And then, Blake just says Yang, and then RWBY's like, Yang, go! Because, like, everyone's distracted, right? So I want to talk about a couple things. So, somebody in the Discord server made a really good point, that this actually really looks like the shit that happened in Beauty and the Beast. And so if you guys don't know the story of Beauty and the Beast very well, basically Gaston brings an army of villagers to basically go and kill the Beast because he's jealous or whatever. Obviously that's not exactly Adam's intention here. They don't really know that Yang is there, so it's not a personal attack on Yang, but it was never really a personal attack on Yang in the begin with. It was all about trying to get Blake, right? And so in terms of, like, the Beauty and the Beast stuff, this is like, so if you guys have seen the movie, you'll know the Beast and Belle, like, meet up or whatever, and then the Beast says, like, you came back or something, and then Gaston's like, boom, boom, motherfucker, and so that's just kind of what happens in the movie. Yeah, good times. Good times. So this would paint Adam as more Gaston, but then you kind of also have Blake leading her own army, and again, that's sort of the more Beauty and the Beast thing, because as soon as the Beast, or I guess as soon as the, like, Clogsworth and them, or whatever, the
animated furniture?
Yeah.
Yes.
The furniture, as soon as they see that Gaston has an army, they make their own counter-army, and so that's kind of like the menagerie faunus, if we're getting into metaphors and shit. And so, anyway, y'all get it. Blake is Belle, Adam's Gaston, blah, blah, blah. So, what does this mean? A lot of people... Okay, so some delusional person, like, looked at, like, what Blake and Yang's interaction there and said that Bumblebee was dead. Like, that killed Bumblebee. And I was just like, are you sure? Like, I don't think that's... like, that's not what I'd say, or whatever. Because, like, Yang didn't look mad at her. She looked very, like, shocked, if anything, and they seem to share, like, a really, like, heartfelt moment. And I listened to it again, and I think that you can hear some music playing. I don't know what song it is. A lot of people are saying it's Wings. For all intents and purposes, I will believe them. I can't hear it well enough to decipher. But if people say it's Wings, like, multiple people have said that it's Wings, so I'm guessing it's Wings. Which again is a callback to Volume 1, so that's really nice. But when we talk about that, I guess, what am I trying to say? Like, I feel like that's a interesting sort of moment there, and I don't think that it's, like, obviously people interpret emotions in different ways, right? But if you look at that and think that Bumblebee is dead, I think you're wrong. Like, no offense, but it's like, because to me that reads as, like, a very sort of, like, shocked, like, almost teetering on a happiness, but so, like, Yang is just, like, real, because she didn't expect to see Blake. Yang is just sort of, like, awestruck, almost. Right?
Yes.
And so I don't think that that's anger or sadness or anything like that, and so I don't know why people would be like, your ship is dead. Like, I don't think this kills it. If anything, like, I think that with what we're talking about, like, it's either very much alive or it's not. But this isn't just about shipping. I just wanted to also, you know, touch on that a little bit, because really, like, I don't think that that's, like, I don't think their intention was to have, Yang show anger with that glance, right? Her eyes didn't turn red, nothing like that happened. It was more of a shock, and I think that she will be glad to see Blake when it's all over. So, now that we've kind of gone over, like, the Beauty and the Beast comparisons and, whatever, all that fun stuff, here's kind of where we're gonna get into the prediction part. So here's just kind of where I'm at with the show right now in terms of the Yang stuff. Obviously, we're gonna do some we're gonna do some Raven and, Cinder prediction videos. But regardless of what happens downstairs, Yang is gonna talk to Raven. We're gonna talk about multiple outcomes for this conversation in a different video, but whatever the case, Yang comes back up the stairs, and then the first thing she does is she runs to help Blake, and they go deal with Adam and whatever's left over with Adam. And then I think that they will have a short talk to end the volume. It's just what that talk contains, because at this point, it's just, like, I would personally think that, yeah, Yang did talk about how much, like, she did need Blake, and all of that stuff. She talked about that to Weiss, but at the same time, I think that she's so happy, for that Blake is around. Like, I think that she would be so happy at that point. Not that necessarily she wouldn't care, I guess, but it's more of just, it's easy to say that you'll be angry if something happens until it actually happens. You understand what I mean? Like, it's easy for us to say, oh, if this happens, like, I'd totally be fine. Or even the opposite. If this happens, it would totally, like, crush me, right? But then when that event actually happens that you're talking about, you have no real idea how you'll react. And so, yeah, Yang's kind of saying, like, you know, that she's mad, and I think that she is, like, that she was mad, but I think that she never thought about what she would feel like in the moment when she saw Blake again, because I genuinely don't think she thought that she would, and so I don't think she ever considered those feelings. So, Hunter, you look like you want to talk a bit. I like how you shook your head like, no, don't do this to me.
Don't you lie to me. I know Bumblebee's not
dead.
In danger from that exchange at all.
From that one expression,
no,
I'm like, y'all are tripping, man. Like, you know.
I think a good tell that it's in good shape is that there's a lot to say about the moment afterwards with Mercury and Yang, where Mercury sort of like is not Mercury, rather Yang is given the opportunity to waste the man, and then
Waste the man.
Okay. Yeah. And then she does not take that. She's not angry anymore. So it's entirely possible that she's no longer angry at Blake for what she had done. I don't believe that will immediately coalesce.
To be honest, I think that they're gonna hug it out. Like, I don't think that. I think, actually, okay, so here's my dream thing. I don't know if this is gonna happen, but I'd like Yang to kind of, like, punch her in the arm and then bring her into a hug. Do you know what I mean? Like, have you seen people do that before?
Have you experienced human affection?
To
yes,
just,
I
like,
know
go like that and then around, you know?
Sure, okay.
Yeah, so I want her to... Yeah, I know, I was just describing to you. So, I want her to, like, lightly, like, tap her. Sort of like how Ilya, what am I saying? Sort of like how Sun pinched Ilya or whatever, and so to kind of have Yang just kind of, like, punch buggy her in the arm, I guess, and then just bring her into a hug. You know what I mean? To show, like, yeah, I'm kind of mad at you, but I also really care about you, and I'm glad to see that you're safe and leading a revolution, like I always dreamed that you would.
I always thought you would be a little Che Guevara.
You understand what I mean? And so I think that, like, I think that that's how things are gonna go, like, obviously. Like, I think evidently that is sort of where we're at the moment with that moment, and I think that they are, if there's enough time in the volume, I think they are going to have a small talk after, and that's the cliffhanger that we're going to be left on if possible. But if not, I think they are just going to hug it out in the battlefield, and then we'll go from there, you know what I mean? We'll live our lives. That is dependent on how traumatic the basement stuff is, though, because, like, for example, a couple people suggested that Cinder will, break free of the ice, like, latch her arm onto the ledge, and then come up and, go for an attack on Yang, but Raven will defend her and then die. I think that's really, like, cliche of Rooster Teeth to do, so I don't think they'll do that. Like, this entire volume has kind of been Hunter and I being like, oh, you know, I'm not getting my hopes up for them doing something different. They'll do exactly what we predicted, and then them proving us wrong almost every time in that respect.
Reliable.
What do you say? Like, because other than the Jean thing, and even that, again, subverted our expectations, because in the end it wasn't just healing. You know what I mean?
That's precisely what you thought it was going to be. But...
Well, what I thought, but the majority of people thought that it was healing, and then even that wasn't, right? So, when you kind of look at the show in that context, I'm basically saying if Miles and Carrie can pull this one off, I'll never doubt in them again. Because I still have those doubts of, okay, well maybe they'll fall into something cliche next episode regarding that interaction, or even the Yang and Blake interaction, right? But I don't, like, judging from the past couple episodes, I really shouldn't think that anymore, but this will be personally the last episode for me to judge them on that. And I'm probably going to be saying this a lot during the week. If they get the next episode, quote-unquote, right, I will never doubt them again until they do something bad later. You know what I mean?
I don't think that it's going to be, like, an immediately, like, hug. I feel like it's going to be, like, Yang forgives Blake, but is not able to necessarily forget it, and there does need to be a lot of work on their relationship of building trust again. I imagine it going in that direction.
I just, like, I'm saying the hug just because, like, you know, like, remember when Weiss was kind of or when Yang was looking up at Weiss and, like, didn't expect Weiss to hug her? I think they'll try to mirror that, but Yang, doing that sort of hug to Blake, and Blake not really expecting it because Blake thought that she wouldn't get one, so to say. You know what I mean? Because we saw how surprised Yang was when Weiss, you know, hugged her like that. And so I think that Yang will take a page out of Weiss's book and they will do that hug again, if that makes sense. Like, do you understand what I mean by the parallel there?
Yes.
Just because Yang, like, never expected Weiss to do that because Weiss wasn't really the touchy-feely sort when they had last interacted, and Weiss has changed so much, and it would be the same for Blake and Yang. That Blake doesn't expect it, but Yang has changed a lot. And so there you go. Like, get me my hug. No. I think, if anything, there will be no hug, but I still would like there to be a punch in the arm. I think that is what I would like to go for there. Blake giving, or Blake taking Yang's arm from Mercury and giving it back to her, or something like that, from his corpse. Yeah, exactly, from his cold dead hands. No, or something like that. Just an interaction like that.
But I digress.
I like the idea of Yang punching Blake in the arm and then saying, "Oh, I see you still got both of yours. Do you want to go get mine?" Or like something like that. You know what I mean? Is that too much? Too much?
Amputee humor? I don't know.
Okay. Because, like, we can erase the go get mine part. We can say, oh, at least you still have both of yours, or something like that. We could go for that. I could go for that. Alright. Glad we had this talk. Anything else you see for their interaction? Because
I stand on my predictions.
Okay. The only other thing I can think of is that kind of Yang starting to yell at her, but then being like, "Aw, come here," you know what I mean, and like giving her a hug, or something like that. Like, so it starts off sort of like that. We think that Blake is getting chewed out, and she still is. It's not that Yang is like bullshitting her or anything, but then Yang kind of has a change of tone, and she's like, "But I also want to hug you," so, you know. It's nice. It's a good day. Also, okay, so this isn't gonna happen next episode, but I really want Ilya to, like, exist, if that makes sense. Like, I want, like, if she doesn't die next episode, I'd really like to see her interactions with Team RWBY and stuff. It's like if you left home, like, for 5 years, and then next time you came over for Christmas dinner, you had a girlfriend, but your parents didn't know you were gay. Like, that very specific situation.
I feel like that's an experience from your own life, Cal.
It's not.
But I know you, so I know it's not. Really, it's more of a personal fantasy.
But do you understand what I mean?
Most people would see as traumatic as something that you wish so desperately to happen to you.
Anyways, yeah, so that's the other thing I wanted to say. So I think, yeah, Blake and Yang are gonna have a good moment here. I think that Yang has all the right to still be mad. I think that she is still gonna be a little angry, but at the same time, I think that Yang watched Weiss die. And I think that, like, watch Weiss die for, like a good 5 minutes, because Ren was like, bitch, she's not breathing, or whatever, right? So Weiss died for a sec, right? And I think that seeing Weiss die, even for that second, even though Weiss is okay now, is really gonna kind of affect her, and, like, I think show her that she can't really hold grudges for that long, because you don't know how long each other's gonna last in this world. You know what I mean? Would you agree with that? Because, like, the way that she looked at Weiss, you know what I mean? Like, the way that she looked at Weiss when Weiss got hurt, like, obviously she cares, like, very deeply about her teammate.
I'm starting to, like, ship Freezer Burn.
Yeah, I know. I feel you.
Everyone is. There's been a mass exodus, I feel.
But you understand what I'm saying.
Because Ilya showed up, and now everyone wants Blake with Ilya. I feel as though that belongs in a video, but
we're gonna do our own
like
thing about that. But yeah, do you understand what I mean, though? Like, seeing Weiss, like, basically Weiss die, and then Weiss come back to life, whatever. But basically, I think seeing Weiss die will change her opinion on a lot of things. You know what I mean? Because, like, that could be Blake out there. Like, luckily it's not, but what if Blake died and she didn't get to tell her, you know, that, like, she was mad, but she wasn't that mad, you know what I mean? Like, if they couldn't reconcile at the last moment. Like, I feel like that is kind of the attitude that she'll take to it in the end. That, yeah, she's angry, but we don't have that long with each other, and that her, like, little adventure here has kind of shown how easy it is for somebody to just suddenly be gone. And I think that RWBY touches on this, right, about Pyrrha and Penny, that, RWBY wishes that she spent more time with them, and that they had more time with each other, but RWBY thought that there would always be more time. Like, I feel that, like, Yang will echo that sentiment eventually, even if it's not in the next episode. And so, yeah. Because you remember what I'm talking about, right? When she's talking to Oscar. When RWBY's talking to Oscar. Yes. So I think that will kind of come back to haunt us, so to speak. You know what I mean? That Yang will finally kind of echo that same thing as RWBY, because RWBY was really torn up. Like, I thought that there would always be more time, right? And I want Yang to kind of say that as well, like, to kind of echo something to that effect. But anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. I think that's basically it for all of my predictions. Oh god, it's been 17 minutes. I didn't know that we got so carried away over here.
That, like, first off, I got carried away, and that, you know, two, this is an entirely standard operating procedure.
Anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this one, and we will see you later. Bye, guys.